Yeah. The last word doesn't come from the doctor. Who's the world that the doctor comes out of? Just keep praying beyond the last hour. Now you witness the procedure of how. Mumbling to myself, must think I'm crazy, but I'm humbling myself and I'm giving praise. Fumbling, got myself, they don't know what I'm saying. If you crumble and need help, I know who can raise you. Unspeakable, the meaning unreachable. I'll go where you lead me to. More sin than them, I'm gonna need a few. Baby, I've had a hard time getting satisfied. I testify, wanna make sure I'm sharp when I make the point of you. When the message come through, I'm clear and even more clear. When you do it again, they must understand the point of view. Said I couldn't change that, that's another life. But I struck my paychecks, I stayed on my grind. I was way back, now in front of none. Was I supposed to say that? Ain't trying to undermine. Mama lit to myself, must think I'm crazy. But I'm humbling myself, and I'm giving praise. Mama lit, got myself, they don't know what I'm saying. If you crumble and need help, I know who can raise you. Unspeakable, unspeakable, the meaning's unreachable. I'll go where you lead me to. More sin than them, I'm gonna need a few. Baby, I've had a hard time getting satisfied. I testify, wanna make sure I'm sharp when I make the point of view. When the message come through, I'm clear and even more clear. When you do it again, they must understand the point of view. Dark situations can make them much brighter. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If your spirit's way down, he can make them much lighter. Yeah. You just taking off, you can go higher. Now let the joyful water fill your eyes up. Baby, I've had a hard time getting satisfied. I testify, wanna make sure I'm sharp when I make the point of view. When the message come through, and even more clear. When you do it again,
Yes, yes. Okay, yeah, it is. Okay, good evening, good evening, good evening. We are about to start Access to Capital Grand Rapids. Woo! Woo, 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 woo. I'm Diane Palmer. I am the founder of Branding and Building Black-owned businesses B3 Elevation. And I got to tell you guys something. I am walking and living right now in a dream. 27 years ago, I started my own business and I started it in Detroit. It's an ad agency. I expanded to Houston in 2014 and I started working with nonprofits, with corporations, with General Motors, all the Fortune 5s. But when Black owned businesses came to me, I often had to do what? Turn them away. They weren't ready and it pained my heart. And in 2020, I decided to do something about it. And so today we have Branding and Building Black-owned businesses, which is designed to equip and prepare Black-owned businesses so they can compete. They can get that capital. They can go ahead and do those marketing campaigns that they came to me for in the first place. And we're able to give them all that expertise, all the elevation at what? No charge. Y'all can do way, way better than that. I said 0. These entrepreneurs that we work with are able to receive these services at absolutely no charge. And I'm so grateful. Where is Marcus Jackson from Fifth Third Bank? This is one of the reasons, he is one of the reasons we're able to do this. Give it up for Marcus. Thank you, sir, for believing in me, believing in B3 Elevation. We are now working with entrepreneurs in Atlanta, in Houston, here in Grand Rapids, and Detroit. And Fifth Third Bank is going with us, and we're so pleased to have him here with me tonight. You want to say hello, hi, something like that? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. This is really important to us at Fifth Third, and it's important for our community to give back. It's through partnerships and collaborations like this that we can strengthen our community, and we're stronger together. So thank you for coming. I'm looking forward to hearing from our esteemed panel and getting this information out. Thank you.
Isn't this place absolutely beautiful? I'm just blown away what a dream can do. And Deb Bates, I don't know where she's. Deborah, come on, lady. Come on. We got to give you a shout out. This is a co-working space that Deborah operates, and she allows small businesses to come for an hour or come for a month, or just have a meeting and show up right and pretend that your receptionist is coming out and greet your potential clients. Deborah, this place is beautiful. We thank you so much for letting us use it. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. It is such a pleasure to provide the space for my newfound friend here, and we just hope that this grows and more people find out about B3 and how we can support small businesses.
And how long have you been in business?
30 years this month.
Woo! A hidden jewel, a treasure in Grand Rapids that many don't know about, but we're getting the word out about her. Okay, so much fun tonight. We have entrepreneurs in the room. Who's an entrepreneur in the room? I have giveaways. I have prizes. Every time we have a B3 Elevation event, we give away Black-owned products and services. So tonight it's all products. And we're going to have a little fun. And then I'm going to have Mr. Joe come up and tell us all about the power of capital. Then we have an awesome panel of financial experts who will be sharing with us ways in which you can get capital into your businesses. All right. Who has been in business for 20 years? 20 years, 25, more than 20. Okay. 15, 10, more than 10, 11. I think we got a winner. Come on up here, my love. You're my winner. She's like, what? I won. What's your name? Give it up for Rhea, everybody. Rhea, you are getting Commodities Tea. This is a urban tea that is made in Detroit by Black-owned business who happens to be a B3 Elevation graduate. You're going to really enjoy these. And you want to tell us the name of your business?
Roots of Trade.
What does Roots of Trade offer or do?
Well, among many other things, I cut stones and set them in silver, gold, and copper. I alloy my own metals, and I'm also a musician. I teach therapies, seed saving of heirloom.
Wow. Give it up for her. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to have to end up with some jewelry tonight before all is said and done. Okay, Joe, you come on up. And I love how we're doing this family style tonight. Yes, this can be your. Did they tell you that one was your mic and this is my mic? Okay. You can have blue. Yeah, go ahead. I'll keep the money green. It matches my fingernail polish. Mr. Palmer might have to help you. Is it?
Okay, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so this is my new friend from Fifth Third Bank, and he's going to chat with you all today about the power of capital. And I really want you to just let him have it, Joe. And we thank you so much for believing in B3 Elevation and being a part of this tonight.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. First, just like to thank B3 Elevation for the invite. I love talking about this topic. It can be complicated in so many ways, but it can also be easy in so many ways. So before I dig into the specifics and the examples that I'm going to use for access to capital, I'd like to share a story with you. This was a story of an entrepreneur that I met when I was a very young banker. I was about a year on the job. And this story is relevant. You'll hopefully figure it out at the end why it was relevant. If not, I'll just tell you. But this entrepreneur walked into my office. I was, again, about a year and a half on the job. And to paint a picture for you, he had very messy jeans on. He had a white t-shirt that had food stains all over it. And all I could smell when he walked in the room was Mexican food. That's all I could smell. And he sits down, he shakes my hand and sits down and says, I want to buy a restaurant. And typically when you're in the banking industry, right, when you hear people say that, you take a deep breath and you say, all right, we're going to help, right? So we did that. But he did something that very, very few people have ever done to me in my 25-year career when working with them. And this is what I learned about capital. And what he did is he sat down and he told me his story. And his story wasn't just about owning a restaurant. His story was about coming to the US. So he shared the story and he said, when I was 9 years old, I came to the US and my mom, once we touched ground, she got on one knee. He was 9 years old and he said, all she did is surround us. It's not on. There you go. Does that work? Can you guys hear it now? All right. So when they got to the US, the first thing that his mom did, she got on one knee and hugged the 9-year-old Yuli and his younger sister. And she said, mi familia, which is my family, right? And said, nothing is more important than this family in life. And so they ended up landing in Minnesota. That's where I'm from originally. And throughout that time, he got jobs when he was 10 years old to help their family survive in Minnesota. He would tell me stories about what his mom did and the sacrifices that she made. So he started working his first restaurant job at 12 years old. So he was a dishwasher at the time. Worked his way up, and he's telling me this story. So he was a busboy, a server. He ended up becoming a waiter, cook, and then an assistant manager and a manager, all in that time. And throughout that whole time, he kept telling me how he was supporting the family. And I sat there and went, wow, this is a really neat story. And then he sat down, and through all of this, he said, this has been my dream. I was able to save about $100,000. And I about fell off my chair, right? But what I learned, though, with Yuli was that what he did to me that nobody else has done is he got me to believe in his journey, in his vision, right? And so what happened then is we were sitting in my office, and I said, all right, I got some ideas here. So we hooked him up with an accountant. We hooked him up with an attorney. We did the business plan, and we ended up doing an SBA loan for him. So that took us about 3 to 4 months to get through it, right? So then we get to the closing table, and this is where it was impactful for me and why I love sharing the story. So we're sitting at the closing table, and he's reading. I hand him the documents to read, and his head goes down, and he puts his hand out to start signing, and his hand starts shaking. And I look over, he was sitting right next to me, and then I look at his face. Everybody got quiet in the room, all the people at the closing, and I see tears coming down his face, and it hits the loan document. And I said, Yuli, what's going on? This is supposed to be like the most exciting, happy day of your life. And he says, I wish my mom was here. She didn't make it. She had died 2 years prior. And then after we closed the loan, about a month later, he opened up the restaurant, invited my wife and I out to dinner. And in Minnesota, much like Western Michigan, it gets dark a little bit later in the summer. And he says, Joe, come on out. I want to show you something. So we sat in front of his building, right? And just as it was right around 9 o'clock or 9:30, the timer hit on his sign and it flashed. What do you think the sign was that we looked at? Mi familia, yep. And he gave me a big hug and he said, Joe, you are now part of the family. So the reason why I share this story is every time I tell it, I get goosebumps, right? I love it. It was just such a memory for me. But what I want everybody here, every business owner to know that access to capital is the most critical part you can do is tell your story and get believers. Invite people along with your journey. It's all about numbers, and people kind of attack it that way. In my 25 years in banking, they'll automatically give you spreadsheets and numbers and all that. But I will tell you, the people that can make things happen are the people that believe in what your story is. So do not just try to go and attack numbers. Please, please, please go out there and tell your story, because I've been doing this for 25 years, and I'll tell you, it's the first question I always ask. How'd you get into what you're doing? Right? And I want to listen to the story, and it's impactful. So transitioning from that, what I thought I would talk about today, and a few more minutes, please, but what I thought I'd talk about today is list out and go through all of the ways that you have access to capital. Some of these things you may have already heard, but there's going to be little nuances involved with them. And the way I approach this is if you were my mother, or if you were my brother or sister from a family of 7, if you're that, this is how I would advise you to think about capital. Okay. So the first and probably the best access to capital is grants, right? Free money. So this organization, B3 Elevation, does that. But there's some downfalls sometimes to it, right? They're looking for very specific qualifications. They're targeting very specific companies. It can be time consuming to get the grant. So you have to balance your precious time. Some of us work 12 hours a day, right? We were talking this morning, 12 hours a day or this afternoon. So you got to kind of balance that from a time perspective. So that's always number one. Number two, this is probably the best one that's out there. That's self-financing and bootstrapping is what they call it. I don't really like that term. So this is, in my experience, what this is almost every entrepreneur I've ever known, this is how they start. It's not always through venture capital financing, which we'll talk about, but this is how they start. They usually grab whatever savings they have. Yuli grabbed his $100,000 and said, I'm going to go start a business, right? So they grab that, and then what they do is they fund it, right? It's a small business. I made a little bit of money. Now I'm going to fund those earnings into additional capital. So that is probably the most common and the most frequent, but I will tell you this. Some people think of this concept as it's a one-time event. Bootstrapping isn't just starting your business. Every single month, and here's the challenge to every entrepreneur that's listening. Every single month when you look at your checkbook, when you look at your income statement and balance sheet, if you look at that every month, you got to think about where are my assets going from a self-funding perspective. How do I want to invest that? Because that's free money, right? So then the third topic that I'd like to talk about is, this is a little more technical. So if you have questions afterwards, I can ask this. But probably the most common way that businesses fund themselves is through accounts payable and accounts receivable. Everybody has accounts payable, right? So you have a vendor, you buy something from them. Typically, they give you 30-day terms, right? So that's free money for 30 days. So you have options, and hopefully you guys are utilizing this, is if you have a big order to buy, you can call your supplier and say, can I get 45 days? Can I get 60 days? And I anticipate that to be for the next 2 months. So if you have a great relationship with your suppliers, they're happy to do that. So you're using them as a financing arm. And then on the accounts receivable side, if you have that, I don't know if you've ever thought about it this way, but when you have an accounts receivable and somebody owes you money, you're their bank, right? Because they owe you 30 days, 45 days. So some of the tactics that you can do to increase your capital is ask them to pay you sooner or give them incentives to pay you sooner. So you might want to do a 1% discount on your receivables. Yep, that'll hit you on the profit line a little bit, but then you get your money 20 days earlier. So again, that's a little nuance. I'll tell you, I work with companies up to 30 million. This is our number one conversation that we have. How do we create cash flow and capital for you to launch back into your business? So again, it's a little bit complicated. You have to have accounts receivable, accounts payable to do that, but that's it. And then here's the fourth one. And this is the last one of all the, what I call free capital. Okay, so all of those things that I just said was free. So the fourth one is sometimes a little bit of a swear word. It's credit cards, right? So I want you to listen very carefully to my advice here. When I tell you to use a credit card, that means you keep a zero balance. You pay it off every single month. But what it does for business owners is if you have an accounts payable for 30 days and it's due, and then I use my credit card at that time, I get 30 more days if I pay it off. So you've just doubled the amount of cash flow you can have for your business. So that's the fourth best. If you carry a balance on a credit card, and right now it's high, 28, 32%, right? That goes from the fourth best option down to the last one. Okay, so that's critically important for you to know. So those are the 4 free ways you can get capital. So I would challenge, again, all the business owners at the end of the month, you exhaust those 4 options first, okay? Then we get into traditional financing, right? So I work for a bank, so I got to sell that. That's next after free, right? But traditionally, bank financing is the least expensive on rate and the least expensive on fees. hardest to qualify for, right? So if you don't know today what it takes to qualify for a bank loan, go sit with a banker, doesn't matter what institution, and say, I might not be able to qualify today, but I need to know what that looks like. So that as you're building your business, you're hitting those markers that have to be there. All right, so that's critically important. And your loans are typically, I call loans and leases together. Those are typically anytime you have an asset purchase, like a car, a large printer, not the little ones that are $100, right? The big ones, anything that you can tie to that loan. That's how you do it. And a lot of times, one of the biggest conversations I have with our business owners, and when I was a lender, I would recommend to them, if you're going to spend $5,000, give me a call. And we'll talk about whether or not you should use your cash or whether or not you should finance it. And early on in my career, what I learned is, and I would talk to business owners about it. Let's say a car, for example. What's the average car now? About $40,000, $50,000, upwards towards 120 if you're buying a nice truck. So what you can do, the question becomes, even if you have that much cash to spend on an asset, do you want to tie it up? And if you don't want to tie it up, let's say a $50,000 car, you can then get a loan, take that $50,000 and invest that in customer acquisition, for example. So what's the value of, if you have your customer acquisition cost, what's the value of that $50,000 1, 2, and 3 years from now? So in the Midwest, we have a lot of very conservative people and they hate debt, but it's something to kind of consider and walk through when you get to your business side. And on the business and on the line of credit side, that's the other financial product that's out there from financial institution perspective. That's just like a credit card, right? Pay it off. We want to see you get to zero every single month. So that's a little bit higher in rate or than a loan, but much lower than a credit card. So those are averaging right now prime plus 0 to prime plus 5 or 6 if you have an unsecured line. All right. So then the next one as we look at is SBA loans. So this is complex, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions tonight. Fire questions at everybody on SBA loans. So this is how I like to explain it at the highest level. So there's 2 loan programs for the SBA. It's 504 and 7A. You don't need to remember those numbers. What those programs do is they guarantee the bank that they get paid. Not you. You'll still owe the money if you default, right? But they guarantee the bank. So what it allows the banks to do then is lower some of their credit qualities, right? So they can give loans with lower credit scores, with less cash flow in order to open up capital to business owners. So it's a 50% guarantee and a 75% guarantee to the bank. But where it's beneficial to business owners is you get extended terms. So on an equipment loan, it's typically 5 years. You can get it out to 10. So lower payment. On buildings, it goes from 20 years to usually 25 years. Longer fixed rate options. So when you get into the situation where you may not qualify for a traditional bank loan, a good lender, a good banker at every institution here will sit down and evaluate that versus an SBA loan and walk you through it from that perspective. So typically what we see, again, in my 25 years, we see self-funding, bootstrapping first, and usually your first loan is a lease, and then after that, it becomes SBA financing. That's typically the route that it goes for a growing business. So then after SBA, there's peer-to-peer lending, if you've ever heard of that. That's basically, I'm Joe Jepson. I can sign up for an online service. I have money that I want to invest, and then they will pair us up from a lending perspective. So there's fees associated with that, usually pretty high fees, and then also the interest rate can fluctuate. So that could be a secondary source of payment there. And then one of the last ones on the financing side is factoring. That's a company buys your invoices, right away. They advance you money right away. So that's the good part. But it's high fees, and they only pay about 90% of your invoices. So the effective interest rate is extremely high for those, very big in the trucking industry. So what's good about those is you get your money right away. They also collect your receivables. So if you're a really small business and you take a lot of time collecting receivables, you outsource that to the factoring company. Okay, but again, that's a very expensive option. So the last one is microfinance institutions. I bring this up. A lot of that, if you see that on TV, a lot of that is like for other countries. Like we're talking micro loans, like $100, $300, $500. It can get bigger, and they are in the U.S. here. But just know that that's an option. If you don't have extremely large financing needs, that can be an option for you as well. Okay, so I'm going to walk you down. We went from free financing, right, to financing that costs you money on a loan. And then the last 3 that I want to talk about today are venture capitalists, right? And angel investors. So how many here have watched Shark Tank? If you haven't watched Shark Tank, you're missing it. I watch that every single time, right? So Shark Tank, the investors on Shark Tank are more like angel investors. So they're going to come in and they're going to offer you part of your business. So I'm going to give you $100,000 and I want 30% of your business. But what an angel investor does is they're actively involved in the business. So you'll see all the sharks. I'll give you access to my team and we'll help you set up the infrastructure of your business. And their whole goal, right, is to what? Sell. They want to build it, scale it, and sell it, right? But they're usually a better help, if you will, than a venture capitalist, which is the next one. So the venture capitalist, all they care about is EBITDA. That's a financial term, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. You don't have to memorize that. That's all they care about. That's all they care about is how much money you're making because they want to invest, take ownership, and then they want to sell and get out at a multiple. So those are, when you think about that, those two kind of investing, it's when you have a company that you think is very scalable across the United States because you need a lot of capital to be able to do that. Okay. So then the last one is crowdfunding, if you've heard of that. Crowdfunding, there's 4 different aspects to crowdfunding. You know, you can do it from a social perspective. You can do it from an equity perspective. You can do it from a loan perspective as well. So there's a lot of options there. There's a lot of crowdfunding options over there, but typically that isn't for larger amounts. And those are variable. So you really have to be very sensitive as to what structure they're putting out in a crowdfunding scenario. So with that, there's, sorry, one more, and this is kind of a joke, but I don't know if you know today, the lottery's at 1.2 million. That could be, or billion, that could be a funding source as well if you want to buy a lottery ticket. And I'm going to put this out, and this is my final comments. First of all, thanks again for letting me speak. So I'm new to the area. I've been here about 7 months. Welcome. So what I've done in the past, in my previous worlds, I usually will have a mentoring opportunity for business owners, or I give mentoring opportunities to business owners for them to sit down. And one of the things I talk about is what keeps you up at night. So what I'm willing to do for anybody in Western Michigan here that's online or here in person, give me a call. I have my card here. I'll get you my contact information, and we'll set up time to do one-on-one. I promise I will not sell you on anything Fifth Third related until about the 3rd or 4th meeting, right? But really, truly, it's really about just helping you. I'm more like a Simon Cowell, if you will. If you're familiar with America's Got Talent, I'm going to tell you the way it is, right? I'm not going to be all, if you want a hype person, you know, somebody to get you excited, that's not going to be me. What you're going to get is a lot of experience and just saying, here's what I see. So that's an offer for anybody that wants to take advantage of that. So that's all I have. Thank you for the time. And I'm sure you're really looking forward to having the Q&A next.
Keep telling us, right? Okay. What do you all think of Mr. Joe? Give it up, a wealth of knowledge and information. And we're about to find out how much they were paying attention. I need 2 brave entrepreneurs who want to win to come on up. Come on. Entrepreneurs are not shy, are they, Joe? Maybe they're shy in Grand Rapids, Keith. Is that what it is? Oh my goodness. Am I going to have to call people? Okay, Renee, come on up. And where's my girl that's in my cohort right now? Renee, come up. You're going to be a contestant on the entrepreneur game. She's sitting here looking at me like I'm not calling her name. And I'm calling you Miss Latricia. You come next. And I'm calling you photographer. Come on. Just stand up here. So, Mr. Joe, you told us there were 4 ways in which most businesses provide capital to their businesses. And you called them the what kind of ways?
The free ways.
Your mic too. Can he use his mic? And can we both mic at the same time? No, one at a time. Okay, that's all right.
So the free ways is what you want to look at first.
So there's 4 free ways. Did either one of you ladies hear those 4 free ways? Oh, no, you can't have it. You can't.
Your accounts receivable, accounts payable. Oh, what's one? Okay. Well, credit card. Yeah. Oh yeah, grants the first one, and then yeah, your own money.
Right.
Yeah.
Bootstrap. That was the 4th one.
The 4th one was credit card with what? No balance. All right, you're going to get some Diamonds Body Care, Miss Emma, for coming up here. Now, listen, Diamond is my Detroit. I got to keep my city straight. She is my Detroit B3 Elevation graduate. When she came to us, she was not minority certified. And I know my MNSDC and the minority business development people love this story because she got certified. She has a contract now with Marriott Spas. She is the only Black-owned body care provider for the Marriott Spas. Diamonds Body Care. I love her story. You're going to enjoy that kit. Take it out and let people get jealous. Let them see the stuff so they can go order. Thank you so much, Joe. All right. While the panelists are coming up, I'm going to introduce some of our community partners who help make all of this happen. Mr. Keith Morgan, come on up. Mr. Eric Brown, come on up. Is Stephanie here from GRCCT? No Stephanie. Okay. Paul, anybody from Spring GR? Jermaine? All right, gentlemen. It looks like the Urban League and the Kent, Wyoming Chamber are our community partners. Now, you all stand up because we want to let the people who are on the panel, we're going to come up here with me. So they're like, what is she doing? Why is she so spontaneous? And so while they are going to chat with me, I would love for Lakeisha Shelton from Comerica, Susie Weisler from First Merchants, Alyssa Starnes from she's a CDFI partner. And I think, Victor, you're filling in tonight for Marcus on the panel. Come on up and have a seat, get comfy, get a mic. All right, gentlemen. So you all have a wealth of resources for small businesses. We have the West Michigan Urban League, and we have the Kent, Wyoming Chamber here. They are community partners to B3 Elevation. I just want you all to say hello and let folks know after the panel, you will have time that they can come and learn more about what your organizations can do for small businesses.
So welcome everybody here. I would say from a chamber standpoint, the biggest thing that we do is we do three things. And this is important for business people to understand of all ethnicities. Now, one of the things that we do as a community is we sleep on the resources that are available. So chambers do really three things. We inform, we connect, and we educate. We help inform people about what's going on. Where are your community partners? Where are your leaders? Where are the resources? We help educate you. So not only do you need to understand where those resources are, but you need to understand how to access the resources, whether it be access to capital, which is finances, or access to human capital. It's always not, or is not always the same way to access the information. So the last thing we do, inform, connect, and educate. So from an education standpoint, not only do we provide just awareness, but we also do some coaching. We do some training. We provide a lot of different resources to be able to help businesses to be able to meet you where you are at specifically in your walk and your journey as a business entrepreneur.
Well, at the Urban League of West Michigan, we have not been known for being in the economic development or business development space for quite some time. Excuse me. Some may know that we were probably one of the first organizations in the area doing that for Black folks many, many years ago. So we do focus on the African-American communities, and we want to address those disparities that exist in the economic realm. We hear a lot of talk about wealth, the wealth gap, and all those other type of things. We know that home ownership and business ownership are two keys as far as eliminating that wealth gap. But real briefly, what we do is we try to provide navigation through the entrepreneurial ecosystem. It's very intimidating to a lot of aspiring and existing entrepreneurs about where to connect with all those resources and things. So we try to help navigate through that. We also do some one-on-one coaching. And we additionally, we're looking to start doing what I want to call a twofold matchmaking. That's obviously supplier diversity events, but also there's another, and we're not doing this yet. Somebody can steal my deal. I don't care. We really want the work to be done, but matching aspiring entrepreneurs with businesses that are for sale. And then also access to capital, helping people get set up, providing the technical assistance or connecting with TA to make sure that they're ready for capital. And by the way, we do have, and we're forming a CDFI that will be up and going in 2024. So.
Put my name on the list for the buying those businesses. Doesn't that sound exciting? Thank you, gentlemen. You will be staying to chat with folks if they have and want more information. Okay, great. You'll have to have a seat. So tonight we're going to have a conversation, and I'm going to introduce our moderator. His name is Mr. John Covington, and he is well known for moderation. He has a PBS television background in his past, you all. He's been on TV moderating, and right now, let's get this title straight. He is the Senior Business Development Consultant for the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Council. And he does a lot in radio and TV and film. So I think we've got the right person tonight for our moderator. Come right up, Mr. John Covington. Thank you for leading the conversation tonight. And I told your panel you're going to give them about 60 seconds to introduce themselves as well.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that.
So thank you all for being here. I'm really happy to be here. Can you hear me? There we go. My name is Susie Whistler. I'm from First Merchants Bank. We have a location at Breton and Burton here in Grand Rapids, mostly on the east side of the state, but we're working on growing here. I work in treasury management currently, which helps with the cash flow for businesses once you're up and running, with your payables and receivables and extending those times. I've been in banking for 25 years, and I'm here to help and answer any questions that you have.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Lakeisha Shelton, and I am the National Community Development Program Manager. And I am responsible for the CRA efforts of the bank across the bank's 5-state footprint. So I work on program, strategy, technology, creating products and services that directly impact community and economic development. Been in banking for 28 years. Majority of my experience has been in retail, where I've had the opportunity to really connect with individuals on an interpersonal level and really help them with their banking goals and financial needs.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Starnes. I'm from Rendy Progress Capital here in Grand Rapids. We provide loans to excluded minority entrepreneurs, and I am the associate partner for business lending.
Good evening. My name is Victor Holt with Fifth Third Bank. I run the financial center downtown. With Fifth Third Bank, I'm also the co-chair of the African American Business Resource Group, which means not only do we go out and partner with communities or partner with small businesses, but we also try to encourage them to create a relationship with the banks on what that looks like. So on a regular basis, we're out in front of the businesses. We say, hey, what do you do? How do you do it? What does that look like? And then we do bring new people in to try to see how they can work on their relationship overall.
Great. Thank you all for being here. And could we just give it up for Diane Palmer and B3 Elevation? She and her entire team. Give it up for her hanging out here with us in West Michigan. We really appreciate you. What you're doing is awesome. And so on behalf of Bill Grice, my boss, it's good to be here. I'm from the MMSDC, which is the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Council. And what we do is we help minority-owned businesses scale their business. Everybody say scale. So scale means grow. It's a fancy word for grow. We help minority-owned businesses grow their business. And I will be here as well afterward if anybody would like to speak with me and find out more about what we do. But let's get into it. And if you have a question, just raise your hand, because this is just as much about you, right, as it is our distinguished panel. We want to make sure all your questions get answered tonight. And I'll go ahead and start us off. And I'll try not to be redundant, because some of these questions Joe addressed when he spoke, right? So I will come up with some other stuff. And if you feel that there's something you need to interject, please do so. We're all family here. Everybody say family. All right. So we've heard many entrepreneurs boast about bootstrapping their businesses and never taking out a loan. I spoke to a guy recently, and he says, I've never taken out a loan and I financed it myself. What is that about, do you think? And also, what do you say to this promoted scenario? And is it realistic? Is it profitable? Is it prudent?
I think that Joe pretty much covered propaganda of that, but in my experience working in retail and working with small business owners and micro and nano business owners, I've always encouraged my small business clients to have something in place, such as a business line of credit or a business credit card, to assist them during those shortfalls or those unexpected situations. And a lot of times they're very conservative or skeptical about borrowing money and they say no. Even when they're in a good position, their credit score is where it should be, they say no. And it's not until they really need that money that they would go into their banking center and speak to their banker and they don't qualify for whatever reason. So I am the type of banker that would highly encourage you to establish a relationship with your banker. It's so, so, so important. Make a quarterly appointment with them.
Okay. I can't take. And I'm gonna let the AV guys come over here if they have to. We're gonna take a pause for the pause. We will not flow like this. Any better, guys? No, it sounds kind of like not better. But you know, it's so fun. The people who are on LinkedIn Live right now and on YouTube and on Zoom are laughing at us. They're like, wow. What are they doing? Okay, we're gonna give them a second here, and I don't know.
Here, why don't you use this?
There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now? So I highly encourage every business owner to sit down with your banker and talk to them about what your current business situations are, what your goals are, what your needs are, and really lay it out on the table so they could be the advocate for you to refer you to our business partners to get your foot in the door. So I think that relationship building is definitely important to every small business owner.
How many people here have attempted? They can't hear me online. They can't hear me online, can they? How many people here have attempted to get a business loan or a business line of credit and you've been denied? Raise your hand. How many people have attempted and you've not been denied? Okay. All right. Any questions? We can keep moving. All right. In positioning ourselves as small business owners for a loan, what type of questions do we need to be able to answer? You talked about that a little bit, developing a relationship with your banker. What type of questions does a small business owner need to be able to answer?
I think that Joe touched on it a little bit. The biggest thing is being able to tell your story and make the banker buy your story, and knowing your character so that you know that you can represent what your business is. Having that in your back pocket, because you're your biggest advocate. And if you can have people that believe in you based on what you're selling or doing, that's a huge asset. I think you also need to be prepared with financials. I mean, the boring stuff, the stuff that shows whether you're worthy of having a loan, being prepared to talk about projections, the future, what's coming up next for you, where you see yourself in 5 to 10 years. That'll show that you've invested the time to really plan what's next for you.
Anybody else want to?
I would say you need to be able to explain what the day-to-day kind of looks like. So as you talked about knowing your financials, knowing your relationship, you also should understand what your relationship is with the bank. So you got to have an answer for why we should lend to you. Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
I hear what you're saying, but in practice, if the person that's sitting on the opposite side of the desk doesn't want to believe in my story, I don't know how to get past that bridge as well. So those are the things that I have a question.
Well, I think that's great. So there's a lot of clients. So as I said, I work out of the downtown office of Fifth Third. So I see clients with a full range of the type of businesses. So just a regular service of, hey, you do this, I give this back, or something more specific as yours, where you create a very unique service or product for them, and they have to kind of meet that space. So when I go back to relationships, or even as she was saying, when you come in, yes, it's telling your story because that matters. You want an advocate in the room. But the best part about having a relationship with a bank is having someone who understands what their limits are and what yours are. Because as Joe said, when we go through this stuff at Fifth Third, our thing isn't to make it sound pretty. So we know what number you kind of need to get to, as long as you know what number you need to make your business work. So maybe we can't sit with you for the projections. We say, can you get here? You can't? Okay, well, then we need to do something else. But the other side is that's why we're doing events like this as well, because there's other community partners that help you with the projecting, that help you with getting these other numbers. So like the SBDC or other partners that we have in the area, to ensure that when you come back to us, you say, hey, Victor, you said I needed X, Y, and Z to get the next $5,000. We'll put you with another partner to get you there. And then you come back and see us and we get you to the next step. That conversation comes out of having a relationship with the bank. That's why we need you there.
Do you have a relationship currently, a healthy, nice relationship with a banker currently? Okay. You have several. Okay. All right. You guys make that happen and let us know how it turned out. What advice would you give to a small business owner who is trying to take it to the next level? They've been self-financing and they're ready to go to the next level. What advice would you give them? Or if I could flip that, what is the most common mistake that you've experienced when a small business owner comes in that wants to take it to the next level?
It
might be different.
So for me, it is, if you've been bootstrapping, you've been doing it well, I think the first thing is just understand where you are. You know, one thing that she mentioned earlier was people typically don't come into the bank until you absolutely need to be at the bank. So come in before that. So before you're ready to scale and grow and grower, have that relationship, have that going. Once you know, hey, I'm ready to go and do this, let's figure out exactly what your options and opportunities are. So whether it's something like a B3 utilization, something like a Spring GR, are there other tools to help get you the money to get you in the right spaces where you can take advantage of that free capital that's next to you? So I think when people are ready, then we help them make the decision.
Yeah, I just need some highlights.
One of the most common mistakes.
Common mistake. Yeah, so like you mentioned, waiting until it's too late. You don't want to interrupt your cash flow, of course. So you might not know what you need until you actually need it. So if you go ahead of time, talk to us, like he said, tell us your story. Sometimes you're not able to explain the unexplained, which is fine. As far as what I do for RPC, we kind of coach you through that. We have some technical assistance for what we call pre-loan readiness that we do. It also helps you provide like projections, have all your financials ready. Some people don't realize that they need certain documents for applying for a business loan. It's completely different from consumer lending. So just coming in ahead of time, you might not think you need a loan yet, but if you prepare, do the learning, reach out to people in the community, we're there for you prior to your need.
So minorities, it's been proven, and independent studies, et cetera, over the years have shown that minority small business owners have not been able to participate in various programs, even with the credit score, even when they've done all the right things. How is that being addressed in your particular institutions? Give me the mic.
This is what I do. So Rendy Progress Capital, Yes, we take consideration of your credit score, but we don't go off of your credit score. So we have given opportunities to people that have had no credits or have had like bankruptcies or, repossessions. So we listen to your story. We hear what you do. We compare you to people in the community as well, and we give you opportunities. We're an alternative lender. We're a little bit different from credit unions and banks. We're a certified CDFI, community development financial institution. So when we lend you money, we're investing in you to invest into the community. So, that's our purpose. We give everyone chances.
First Merchants is investing in the business communities for people that have the credit score that may or may not have been able to qualify in the past with an unsecured product that just requires 3 years in business. So it gives you a way to get access to the capital that you need without having to worry about the past or any kind of credit decision that's been made before.
Quick Zoom participant question. We want them to feel like they're a part of it too. They're with us, right? If I've only been in business for 1 or 2 years, can I go for a business loan, or is there a certain amount of time you would prefer that I am in business before I ask for finances?
So because of Rendy Progress Capital, we work with minority entrepreneurs that are entrepreneurs. Rendy? Oh, I was like, I tripped on it a little bit. So RENDE Progress Capital. We work with business owners that are at least 6 months old. So that could be pretty much anyone. But 6 months is a little bit more challenging because you're still trying to work out your financials and everything. You're a little bit new, but that's why we also have a pre-loan readiness program to get you ready for that loan. And you can go straight into applying with us.
I was just going to say, I think that it's safe to say that most traditional financial institutions is going to have a minimum time in business, usually 2 or 3 years. And I think that's why it's so important that we're all here representing each financial institution. The importance of community partnerships such as CDFIs and things like that is become even more important. I know that we're exploring the feasibility of creating a special purpose credit program. And even with that program, there's still going to be some requirements. But the partnership of having a relationship with your banker, knowing and understanding where your resources are, and most of them, if you are in business for less than 2 years, or if you need assistance as far as business technical assistance, you want to leverage your community partners, such as her programs.
Everybody say hey to the people on Zoom. Say hey, Zoom. Everybody say hey, Zoom. All right. Joe talked about grants a little bit. How realistic is it for a business to say, I'm only doing grants? How realistic is it to scale and grow your business with grants only, would you say?
It's a wonderful idea. It's not realistic and it's not easy to get grants, but apply for them. Put in for everything that you can, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get it. It's kind of like winning the lottery, like we were talking about. So you're not going to be able to scale, and you want to make sure that you're not interrupting your cash flow, because if something important happens and you need cash and you don't have anything else to fall on, like a line of credit, you're SOL, truthfully. So before you SOL, I'm not gonna spell out the acronym though. So you don't know what you need until you need it. But if you just go in and you're like, hey, help me, we'll tell you what you might need. We'll give you some coaching advice or whatever you might need.
Grants.
I would agree. It's not realistic to completely fund your entire business. I've seen it maybe a couple times in my career where people have been able to use grants and scale to the size where they're in national vendors, but it's not something we're going to see every day. I think using your social capital is a better use of time. Making sure that you're networking, making sure that you're building your base, spending time with the community partners is the best way to grow.
I actually forgot on the previous, we talked about what we were doing for minority businesses and limited businesses. So for Fifth Third over the last few years, so we're very conscious and aware of what the stats say on if you've done all the right things, it just doesn't look right. And truthfully, what we've seen now is that we have all these programs that individuals don't know that they're accessible to them. So what we've done is we've created a completely separate team that actually goes out into the community themselves and goes and visits those businesses and talks about how are you doing, what's happening, whether you bank with us or don't bank with us, do you know what you could be getting? So specifically, all of our financial center managers and the way our whole process is set up is to interact with businesses that maybe were turned down in the past because they didn't know. And then we go and just meet them kind of where they are. So we say, hey, your business is doing this today. How are you guys accept the payments? And it's not necessarily a full sales conversation. It's a, did you know that we can do this for you and that you can save some money? Did you know that you can do these things as well? In the past, people used to come to us and then they felt like they came to the principal's office and it wasn't in their behavior. Now we've taken the initiative to kind of go out and see them and say, now that we're here, how can we help you? How can we do this right by you? That way the power seems a little bit more on the customer side, which it should be. And then we can say, okay, well, if you are able to do these things, then we can all come together and make it all make sense. Save you money, help you directly. And that's kind of been our focus to kind of turn that tide a little bit of what the stats were.
You mentioned social capital. What about social media, which is a part of, I think, social capital? I've run into several business owners who say, yeah, I don't do social media, but they own a business. What are your thoughts?
I don't know how they run a business.
Social media. Are you on the radio? I mean, I don't think anyone really listens to the radio either. I have Spotify and Pandora. So, I mean, if you don't know how to market yourself, that is one of the key parts of being in business. You think it's just making and selling your product, but you have to not only show your product, but show it to the world. I mean, you can't be everywhere at once, and social media will do that for you for free. Everyone likes free, and it brings you money. So there are people in the community that can help develop your social media strategies. I know there's places that you can hire a social media person for you to do, I don't know, maybe an hour a week. I mean, one post a week, it's not too terrible. I mean, you could even do some type of promotional sale or giveaway, something like that. Just be creative. Social media is free to use, free marketing, and everyone's on it pretty much.
I think one thing to also consider is what type of business that you have. Your customers may be the automotive industry and they're not necessarily on social media. So you really have to figure out who your customers are and, create that strategy around that as well.
And the people I'm talking about definitely should have been on social media for sure. It baffles me. I've heard it many times. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Any questions? Yes.
So I have a question going back to the story. So when a person comes in and they're telling you their story, is there something in specific that you're looking for? I mean, because I can tell you my history and it can bring you to tears, but it might not bring you to sign that document. So is there something that you're looking for or something that business owners should come to the table with in addition to their passions?
Yes, so we're looking for the commitment because sometimes people come in with a good story because they think that's the best way to make money. Oftentimes when someone leaves my office, they leave with homework. You came in with this idea, but you might have had to be able to do something else. So I've had stories told to me that I was completely moved, but they also anticipated because it was so moving that I was going to do the rest of the work of the way. Well, it's not my business. My job is to help guide you, not walk for you. So a lot of times when we have someone with that super strong story, we're looking for that commitment to like, okay, well, if you know what it's taking to get you this far and why you're doing this, are you still continuing to do, or will you be willing to do what's next take you to the next step. So if it is partner with a different person to help with projections, partner with a different community partner to help get your right exposure, my job is to help kind of get you in front of those opportunities, right? If I'm bringing something to you, it should be of value, but are you willing to take that next step to go further? That'll help get it done.
And not that this applies to any of you business owners, but I would like to know, do you have a business account? Or are you commingling your funds into your personal account? If you own 3 businesses, do you have 3 separate business accounts for those 3 businesses? Have you structured your business with the state of Michigan? Do you have a tax ID number? Do you have employees? Are you paying your employees above the table or under the table? So really just some big, do you know your credit score? When's the last time you checked your credit score? If you own rental properties, do you pay insurance on those? Because that has to be factored in when you're thinking about lending. So to me, it's really the fundamentals of the basics of banking. So a lot of times you'll be surprised of how many business owners are commingling their accounts. They're not reflecting your deposits in your account. Do you have a cash business? Are you depositing net cash into the business account? Like you have to show your income some type of way. So those are some things you may want to consider.
I'd also like to touch on filing taxes for your business. You have to file something. We need to see something as far as, yeah, there was a loss, but at least you filed it. I mean, at that point, for me, yes, that'll work for me. I don't know about banks or credit unions, but I have to see that you filed it. You took that commitment to show that you had expenses, but there was no income. Maybe you were just getting started. So file your taxes. Your accountant should be advising you to do that and not telling you to skip over that. I have seen that a lot in the community, and I have not been able to lend to you.
From the banking side, I'll say it just because you opened up a bag of, can of worms. If you are filing taxes and you are taking a loss, please don't expect me to be able to lend to you. That says you didn't make any money. You might have a really great accountant that helped you out with Uncle Sam, but I can't help you. I want to help you. I'm going to tell you I want to help you. But I've had so many people come to me and talk about how great their business was and all these other numbers, but that bottom line says you lost last year because you was able to write everything off. I'm glad you were able to, but that's going to limit how much I can lend to you. Self-awareness matters as a business owner.
And if that means you need to see an alternative lender, see us, Rende Progress Capital. I'll spell it out again. RENDE.
Okay, we got to illuminate that point just a little bit more about telling the truth on our taxes, because it comes back to bite us, not just with a business loan, but with the grants. I have 2 grants. Marcus, you want to help me with this? Okay, come on up. You can come right after me. I have 2 grants right now, and I said grants. I didn't say loans, but there are income requirements. And they didn't even say it had to be profit. I just said revenue, like you brought it in through your business and you showed it on your tax return. But when they don't put it on their tax return, I can't even get them the grant. Lakeisha, what am I doing? What are we doing, y'all? We got to tell the truth because you will profit in the end. Y'all help me illuminate that point because this is that much. Okay.
Well, and I think the business owners that we have in here are passionate about what they do. They may not be passionate about filing the taxes, but they need to find someone that is because it's important to make sure that you have the right people being able to help you with your business.
I've been filing my taxes since my business was in operation since 2005. I have multiple facets and I do invest in multiple facets. So last year I did owe, so I did show some little tiny margin of a profit, but I do usually 100% reinvest. So I haven't been showing profit over my number of years due to, again, I think of a circular staircase when it comes to my businesses. So I'm not certain if I have not been necessarily getting proper advice at tax time in, write it all off. So maybe as far as banking and from your level of expertise, if some of that type of more correct or varying differential type of advice can be given to us who haven't had financial advice from anyone growing up at all, just figuring it all out as I go, this would be helpful in the future.
We got to get you a new banker and a new accountant. Everybody say what up, Marcus.
So I used to be a lender. I'm no longer a lender, but I will say you should talk to your accountant. John's right. Get a new accountant or CPA, but tell them, and this actually kind of ties to what I was going to say earlier. Tell the truth on your taxes, but going back to the story, tell the truth. Be honest with them. I can't tell you how many times as a lender where I would get told this great story and we get to the point where we're applying for the loan and it's in credit. And then all of a sudden, oh, I forgot I filed for bankruptcy. My personal favorite one was we were applying for a line of credit and they had a line of credit at Chase that was fully maxed out for 50 grand. And they said, I forgot. So you lost your credibility with the one person that was fighting for you. You lost credibility with the bank. And they tried to go to a CDFI partner who I worked with at the time, and I let them know. So then they were screwed.
How do you spell that?
Chat GPT. But seriously, be honest. The lenders, the banks, and CDFIs, community partners, we want to help you, but you have to be honest with us. We can't help us help you. We want to help. We're not this nefarious organization or organizations that want to inherently not lend you money. We want to help you. And yes, part of that is because you don't know what you don't know, but that's why it's important to find an institution, find a banker, find a CPA, have that partner that is your advocate that will let you know. That's all I want to share.
Good job. It benefits a financial institution to loan money, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Any other questions? And if any of you are guilty of any of these things that they just said, show your hand. No, just kidding. No, just kidding. Any other questions? Any questions? All right, we got 2 more questions. We've talked about this a little bit. The specifics that you're doing to the initiatives that you have to loan money, et cetera, do business with minority businesses, Black and or women-owned businesses. Would you like to go a little deeper to talk about specifics that you're doing? We kind of talked about it before I realized it was a question on here, but would you care to go in a little deeper?
So at Fifth Third, like I said, the biggest piece that we do is usually going out to the businesses. And the way the bank is trying to hold us accountable for that is if everybody's seen a Fifth Third branch, we're all over every place. Every location has a manager. Each of those managers, as he just said, the bank makes money when we do lending. Each of those managers has a goal of how much they're trying to give out. Like that's the goal. Can we give out more money to small businesses? That's the bank's initiative. It's even on the annual performance metric for these branch managers to get out into the community, talk to small businesses, and give them money. So the way that we've just tried to attack it is make it very realistic and very in time, like in right now. I don't know what happened there now. But that's what we do. So once a week, at least each branch manager is out in the market talking to small businesses and letting them know, hey, what do you have? What are we doing? What can we do for you? If you ever had accounts, no, I ain't even moving. How they gonna do me like that? No, so see how you do me?
What Beyonce say, freeze?
Is it freeze? Is it mute?
Oh, mute.
See, my daughter keep me right, so that's the only reason I know.
Yeah, mute, yeah. I'm old.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's not a specific program per se of like, hey, if you're in this bucket, we lend to you. It's just more of a focus on an action item for us. Go out, go see them, see what they have, see where we're at, and be present, be in the community, and make sure that we can do it. And then on the backside, hold the managers, so the bank hold the managers accountable to give out that money, right? We shouldn't have branches that are not giving out the money. So Bank want to give it, business want to receive it. See that just a little bit. Business want to receive it. We just got to meet in the middle, and I think everybody wins once that happens.
I hope it doesn't. It's you. So Rendy Progress Capital, or RPC for short, before we actually started lending money, we had researched in the community how minority business owners were being excluded from traditional banking systems and getting loans. So we've done the research, and then we had to prove or show our research to investees and foundations, which give us money so that we can give it back to the community responsibly, I should say. So we are taking the necessary steps to listen to you and your business, and then we're giving you faith that someone believes in you, you can scale. So we're a little bit different from traditional banking, but I would say look for a CDFI. There's a lot everywhere, and we are about 5 years old. So we've been here in Grand Rapids, but we're trying to explode in the market a little bit. So people hear about us. We've been on the news channel. We have at least 40 customers in the community, locally and along the lakeshore as well. So we're doing our best in looking for people. Even if you aren't interested in getting a loan, tell somebody, just because they might not know or just need advice.
I would say that Comerica will be celebrating our 175th year. We are one of the largest commercial banks in the United States. We were recognized as the #1 SBA lender in Michigan last year. So we are in the business to help businesses. That's very important to us. However, we are also understanding of the fact that there may be communities that may have an economic disadvantage. So in my role, that's one of the things that I'm working on, is creating partnerships and developing an ecosystem of CDFIs and community partners to help those small business owners who may not traditionally fit in that box. So partnerships, relationships, knowing your numbers, knowing where you stand. So all of that plays into how we help you reach your goals.
I would agree with everything that was said already. I think that the basics are financial education, knowing your banker. We have specific programs that'll work to help fund. It just depends on what's going to work best for you, whether it be on the personal side or the business side. Banks are meant to lend. We all have goals. We all have targets that we are required to meet. We partner specifically with the SBA and the MEDC on a lot of lending, just to help with the traditional lending that can't go through. That just gives us the backing that we need in order to have it happen.
How many people here have sat on a business idea? Raise your hand if you've ever sat on an idea that you had that you did not put forward. Most of us. There's no reason not to. This country is built on small businesses, and that includes you. This is the best time of my adult life to do business. The last question, Joe mentioned it in his Finance 101 class, so we won't go into that about the SBA. He described that, I think very well. Awesome panel. Can you give the panel a hand? Great job. And my last question is, how many of you are going to follow up with one of them, or maybe all four of them? Raise your hands. All right, the majority of the room is going to follow up with one of you. Awesome. Good job. Thank you. Food for the caterer, Laurel Catering, right there. Say it again. LaRue's Catering and Kitchen. Everybody here caters. All these folks up on this panel. LaRue's Catering Kitchen. And thank you to our good friend Eric Brown of the West Michigan Urban League, who covered the catering this evening. Woo woo! Everybody say thank you, Eric. One more door prize. One more door prize. Who's been in business the shortest amount of time? So, who's been in business 6 months or less? LaRue's been in business 6 months or less. Anybody else? Anybody else? LaRue. LaRue's Catering. Atai, you gone? Everybody give it up for Atai Obande from the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce. Atai, come here real quick, please. Atai, Diane wants to see you real quick. LaRue, you won. You won. Come on up. So,
back and try to get a little more of my B3 in it? Boop, 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 boop. What do you think? No? Okay, stay right here. You're the granddad. Now you're fine. Wait a minute. Right, 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 right. Right, just like the top. Just like the top.